Hello, my friends. I took a walk today on one particular watercourse or drainage across one particular part of our small holding. And I spent some time looking at that uh, with permaculture principles in my mind. Um, I've been working very hard this past week or so to really get the permaculture principles internalized in my mind so that they become a significant part of my thought processes to guide the work that I do here on this small holding. And so what follows here will be a spliced together series of relatively short clips that I took as I walked the farm, and they will. I'm thinking out loud of actions that I will take uh, early in spring before planting season to try to prepare the farm for the planting. Uh, and I'm making a video out of it because there's a possibility that these thought processes might be useful to others. And if they are useful to you, then that makes this effort worthwhile. So please come along. We're going to just go on a little walk on the east portion of our small holding. And thank you for being here today. Over there, right down there, is a pond. And that pond sits on a drainage. And if you look from this point, you can see right along there is a low place. The hill goes up on the other side, it comes up on this side. And it concentrates all the water into that pond. That pond is washed out. We'll go down there and look at it more closely. So the water busts on through the pond. It runs on down that drainage, roughly that way, and into the creek and is lost. And our property line is close to there. So any water that we lose off that drainage is soon completely lost to us, to our land and to our needs. So we're going to look. All right, as we stand here, I'm at the corner of the property, and this line you see across here, that's fairly close, and that's the line where the slope breaks. Everything on this side of that line slopes downhill to where I'm standing and then runs off the property right where I'm standing. And everything on the other side of that line that you see there, that horizon, that near horizon line, slopes down the other way. Most of that feeds through the little pond that I'm talking about. Perhaps all of it. I'll have to get up on top of that ridge and see. And as you look up here, you can see that clear up to there is coming down this way. And that water is lost off the property quickly. And I'm standing in a road, so that water goes into the road and goes. So we're going to walk directly that way next and look at that drainage as we get on the other side of that horizon. All right, now I'm standing on the horizon line. Quit that. Standing on the horizon line as I showed you from that last picture. This tree line here, that's an old fence row, but it also lays right on a slope that goes down, and you can see right at that point right there is a concentration point from the water from where we're standing, the water from that slope, and even a little of the water from this part of the slope here all concentrates to that point and runs into the pond. The pond dam is washed out, so that water doesn't spend much time in that pond. As a result, although all the water off all this slope goes through that pond, it dries out quickly because the soils above it aren't holding that water. It goes in there, it stops. a little of it soaks in through the clay base, more of it evaporates off or runs out. So that's a point of waste right there. We waste a lot of water through that spot. That pond was built a long, long time ago. I know an old man, old by my standards, and I'm 73, who swam in that pond as a child. So it's been there for a long time. On the other side of the tree line, it's not too easy to see, but that line across right there, that's the other ridge of this particular drainage we're looking at. What I'm pondering is how to capture more water and therefore more energy out of this drainage. One of the principles of permaculture is to catch and store energy. Well, energy is what moves water uphill. And then as the water runs downhill, the energy from it is dissipated back into the land. And to the extent that we can hold water inside the soil up here, then we have caught energy. And the energy then can be dissipated into plants and other things of value up here, instead of dissipated in processes like erosion. And so, because the energy must be dissipated. And the question is how and at what rate. So if we can catch and store that energy in the soil as absorbed water, then we can obtain benefit from it. Right along here, I don't know if they show in this video because outdoors I can't see, but right along here, there's a little row of yellow flags, and I put those flags there as to be considered as a keyline swale. In other words, I survey a swale and then I look at it to see if that swale in that spot is going to work for my purposes. And I'm not sure that one is, but I'm not sure it's not yet. Pardon me, now we're much closer to the pond. Pardon me. As you can see under that cedar tree right there, there's a deep gully that runs into the pond. Right here in front of us, you can now see these yellow flags that are a considered spot for a swale, and I'm still not sure about it. One of the principles is to use small and slow solutions to get the most benefit from the least input. To dig this swale here, whether I do it with a shovel or with a tractor, is not a huge amount of energy because it's not real long. But if I come down here and dig a smaller, closer one, just across here, right here where it runs into that tree, I can catch the water that's running across up here where I'm looking at, where these yellow flags are. The water that's running across up here is concentrating together right there. So if I build the swale behind where I'm standing now, farther uphill, then I capture more energy because the water is higher. And as we established, moving water uphill is a work of energy, and catching the water near the top of the hill is a work of energy. But on the other hand, if I put a small swale there and probably a couple others over there, which we're going to go look at, then we should be able to capture a fair amount of that energy for less input energy. That is to say, we'll invest less work into it. The objective, part of the objective here, is to make it so that groundwater continually recharges this pond so that it stays as full as it's able to be. You can see here, by the way, a lot of little wild critters have been running around this corner. They like this little corner. I'm going to take this 10 feet right here, or maybe 20 feet of fence right here out, so that my donkeys and I can travel across this route. But that's a separate issue. That's a separate plan. Now, right here, even as low as down here, a small dam, even as low as right here, could slow the water through. If you look over there, right there is the washout point. The dam is higher to our left from there. There's a low spot. It's higher to our right. And you can't see it from here. There's an illusion created by a slope behind it so that this washout is lower than it looks like. But you can also see from the snow that the pond is well down from the washout. And that means that it's evaporated away below what it could store. If the groundwater up here were slowly seeping into this pond, A, it wouldn't roll through that washout as fast during rain intervals, and B, it wouldn't evaporate away as fast between rain intervals. So that's the objective here. Now, right there, right where I'm circling with my stick, that's the low spot. And you can observe that the water follows this low spot here, and it's not obvious because of the snow, but right here is a deeply erosive and eroded gully. Now, because of the way we manage this, you know, the principles of permaculture say that we want to design our movements around this property based on the land. Well, I've been here full-time for 15 years, and I've been here on and off for 25. And so my patterns here are fully developed. And so to a certain extent, I am one of the variables I have to design around my life and how I use this property. But this gully comes along parallel. You can see that's a big upslope here. It's well uphill from there, right there, than it is from where I am now. Water comes down this slope and it concentrates. It comes down that slope and it concentrates to this point. That's why that's so deeply eroded. There's all the energy running down off the slope behind me that we just looked at to here. I use this trail, and as I said, I'm going to open up that fence so that I can use it better for my needs to manage the property. Over there where we're not going today, there's another management area that I spend a lot of time in and on. It's a place that both I like and needs a lot of work. And so I don't want to build a swale that screws up my ability to travel through here. This line, this mow line here, that's the edge of my regular use. I keep this, I very rarely mow that. Once in a great while I'll go through to mow that just to set back succession a little, but I very rarely mow it. But if I build a swale right here along the edge of this mow line from there, not even that big, just right here. If I build a swale, say 12 feet long here, and fairly deep, right where my stick is, there's the erosion trench. Right where my stick is, if I build a little pond there that's 3 feet deep and 5 feet wide and 2 feet broad, catch this water and soak it in, then I can slow the water across that, reduce the volume of water that crosses that, reduce the erosion rate there, soak water into this hill that we're on, which is a very clayey hill, and if I can get water in it, it will move through it slowly. That appears to me to be a worthwhile effort. And as we look, there's a little hump here and another ditch there. So we have another one. And this one is deep we're looking across it. The gully line is right there. Those trees right there are standing right in the gully. This is a deep, steep gully. So that if I built another swale here and one there, with two small diggings, I could interrupt the flow from a large amount of surface area which would be captured. And I'm standing in the middle so that this goes up towards the road right there. Now I could put long swales up there and catch a more modest amount of water, but higher up, which would mean I would capture more energy per liter of water. But I have to evaluate how that affects my ability to do other productive things with land. So I have to evaluate that. But what we're going to do is, the objective is to find the smallest thing that will make a noticeable difference, that I can do the most easily, so that I can accomplish a productive result with the least energy input. Now, it's tempting to say the most quickly, but you see the way that that gets answered is, okay, come out here with a backhoe. No, I want to do it with the least energy input, which means I don't want to waste my time, but I don't want to waste energy either. So I want to productively use energy, and right there in that spot, a swale right there, right along where the mowed grass, the white snow and the brown grass join, right at that point. A swale there will definitely slow the flow into this pond, and it will definitely increase the permanence of this shallow pond. One right here where I'm standing will do the same. I'm going to go over here where you can see that a little better. Okay, the one I was just standing in is right there. A swale along there, another 8-foot long swale. Then we come over here, and I'm going to walk up here. You can see this one. We're looking here at the side view of one of these gullies. It runs from there up this line down low, and it pops up right there at what kind of looks like a corner. Okay, and you can see, I think you can see, that running right there, that line, that's the drainage line that feeds this. Okay, so you come across here. Now this is a little trickier because there's a drop off right there, and then this ground, and then there's another drop off there, and it's a steep drop off. Now you could, ideally, what I should do is come right to this drop-off spot. Now we're standing and we're looking down that draw into the pond. If I come to this drop-off spot right at my feet, and I make a swale there, then I've still got this lane. This is a regular lane that I use in my travels around the farm as I'm overseeing my objectives. But if I put one here, not real big, kept this, what I'm standing now, as a lane, and then put another one here along the edge of that ground, that will enable me to catch energy and water twice, slow that destruction there, potentially even begin to catch soil there, and once again, the overall project, which is to capture water as it comes to this pond. Now you see this drainage, once again, this is big. It goes over there beyond that fence row and tree line, and it goes this whole slope that we're looking at, all out as far as that horizon line right there, that all drains back this way into this pond. Now, we could go out there where the water comes from, but it would take long swales to capture that water. That would take a lot of energy input, and then I would have to figure out ways to modify my motions around the farm to match those swales, where if I come down here, I let the land gather the water up for me. And I come here, you see this is that same gully we were just looking down, only it forks. You can see that this side, that thorn tree right there, stands on a little high point. There's a deep gully on the other side of it. There's a deep gully on our side of it. It goes right there. Now, by digging a few smaller swales, we can let the world gather the water up for us, and then we'll capture it at this point. We'll lose the energy it took the water to get down here from uphill. And perhaps in later years, assuming I live that long, then we can begin to move uphill as it becomes more obvious and build more. We're coming down now to the washout point in the dam where it becomes a little more obvious. This right here on the near side, I built that a couple of years ago. That's soil that I took out of the bottom of the pond during a dry out and moved up here. Now I did that with heavy machinery. I did that with a backhoe and a front loader. There's the washout point. I built it up a little to slow the washing. And now you can see, as I get down in the washout point, you can see that the height difference, this is the top of the dam, and it's about equal, that point over there is about equal with my chin as I stand in this washout down here. The pond goes there. The gullies that we were looking at come down there and there, and you can't see the other one. As you can see from here, there's another draw that comes out of that property. That's my property over there, but it's a different lot. That comes out of there, right behind that big cedar tree. There's a central point where the drainage feeds down. That's another place. Okay, now once the water's gotten in here, this pond fills up in big rains. The water runs down here off all these slopes. It roars through here. It comes out of here 90 to nothing. It can't go that way because that's uphill. That's uphill. It has to go that way. So it washes over this, and then it goes down that way. And it's not real obvious, but part of the water will go to our left along that wood line and curl back, and behind that building is where the creek is. And so the water runs down there into the creek, and we're almost to the road. This is almost the property line. So everything that goes in the creek there is lost to us within minutes. Part of that water also goes this way. Now there's a place right here. We're going to walk to it, but there's a place right there that's low on all sides. It's uphill to go there. 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 So right there, I got my eye on it. I'm going to walk down here. Okay, right here, under my feet where my stick is stuck. That's low on all sides. That's the backside of the pond dam. That's the slope we just came down. I didn't discuss that low point there, but that's another issue that has to be dealt with. The pond washout is right there at the very edge of those trees. That's the washout point we were just standing in. So it's downhill to here. It's downhill from over there. It's downhill from that property. Now it goes down there, but between us and there's a little high spot. Right along here is a little rise. It goes downhill that way, also towards the creek. But there's a rise there. Over there's another big slope, comes down and feeds us. If right where I'm standing, I dug a pond, it wouldn't have to be any bigger than 5 or 6 feet in diameter to catch water and absorb it into this ground so that it couldn't get into that creek overland, and it would have to travel through the ground to get into the creek. And that means that on its way there, it would provide nourishment for everything that grows there. Most of these little trees, like that one, the little ones are all mulberries. That one there, the big one, that's a big black locust or big honey locust. It's a thorn tree. I haven't done anything with it. Up that way, there are two oh darn it, chestnuts. Okay, but coming there, right there, we come out of the pond and we come down like this. If we dug a little swale right across there, we could catch that water, stop that water once. Every time it has to go over a swale, the motion, the turbulence created by the swale absorbs energy out of the water. And as the water loses energy, then anything it's carrying, like soils, has to fall out because it doesn't have the energy to continue to carry it. So if we build a little swale right there, that would give us, we're still working on that same water that we've come down from above. We can slow it down there. Right here in this central low point, we can slow it down. And then probably 1 or 2 swales over here. The objective, once again, is to build the smallest possible swale to capture the largest possible amount of water and energy. Now I'm going to walk down here, but as you see, I don't know if you can see it, right there, that's a high point. There's a high rounded mound there. The low place we were just looking at runs across like that, and it runs beyond that round. The little place where I was going to build a pond, that's right there. Now the water splits. We could catch a little over there and some over here and slow it again. Now, this little tree line here is on a fence row. And that slope on the far side of it is another region of the farm, and it's a region that I refer to as the thorn forest. And it's eroded so that this slope comes down, and then along this fence row, there's a high spot. Because the use on that other side, when it was a separate property from this one, created erosion on that slope. The water on that slope travels from our left to our right, and from our far to our near. But then it gets right to the other side of that fence row, and it the land, the terrain has been altered by historic erosion. So right there in that corner of that fence row would be another good place for a little swale, a little water harvesting structure. What I'm doing today, this ground has several, well, I don't know how many because I don't know the ground well enough, and I've been here for years, but I still don't know it well enough. This ground has numerous different water courses. since it's well upland, the water courses don't have any permanent water in them. They don't look like creeks, but they still exist as separate water courses. And so what I'm doing today is I'm just worrying about this one water course that comes from almost up to the road, down across the old pond, and then travels. It also comes off that slope, and that everything coming down off that slope, of course, didn't go through the pond. Matter of fact, you go through that property to get to the other end of the pond dam. So everything in there is separate, but there's a place right there, I can see it from here, where a water harvesting structure could catch a lot of water and get it into this ground. This is the only water course I'm concerned about today. On a different day, I will look at and think about a different water course. But to me, these separate water courses, merging and branching, exist as separate bioregions, if you will. You know, we have this term bioregion, which usually is used to mean a huge area like all of the oak savanna between, you know, the Mississippi Delta and Canada, and I live in the middle of that. But the bioregions are fractal, which is to say that, you know, you can probably put a 1 meter square on the ground and find more than one bioregion inside it. And each of these drainages, each of these water courses, upland water courses, exists as one bioregion. And if I observe them on those terms, then I should be able to catch water on each of them. Right here, right there is a high point, and right there, that's that low point. I absolutely need to dig a little pond right there, because that will definitely catch and hold water. It doesn't have to be much, just enough to catch and hold water and let it soak into the ground instead of running off. It already tends to, because of that being a low place. So all we have to do is enhance the land's intention as it exists. Well, that's all for today. I've just came down here because it just requires thought, and I find winter to be a useful time to think. The ground's frozen, I can't dig. As we look here, we see once again that this water wants to split. It wants to go that way or that way. There's a significant draw across there that definitely needs to have a few little swales in it. Just little ones, 2 or 3. So that'll give me things to do for the next year between planting seasons and harvesting seasons. That's all for today. Thanks for coming along.